On to producer theory, producer or firms. We discussed that a firm has a time constraint where we discussed something called the short run and the long run. What is the definition of the short run? The short run, the firm, I hope you're writing some of these. The short run is the firm has not got time to change all of its resources. The firm has not got enough time to change all of its resources. Prime example would be, we ask you to register for today. The room can technically only sit 80 people, but we got like 120 registrations. So if I couldn't divide those walls, we would have been constrained in the short run, right? Because I can't increase the number of classrooms in the short run. If it went past 200 students, I'll just have to say we can't have any more students. We can bring more staff in the short run, but we can't increase the number of classrooms in the short run. So we say in the short run, capital is fixed. The fixed resource is capital. Machinery, tools, equipment. The fixed resource is a firm's capital. Variable resources are like labor, inputs. If you're owning a cafe, the coffee, the milk, the staff that you hire, these are all variable resources that can be changed in the short run, yeah? Okay, so even though there are 4 resources, in producer theory, we assume that there's just labor and capital only. L for labor, K for capital. Please grab a handout each. Labor is variable in the short run. Capital is fixed. So we see what happens to our production. We see what happens to our production as labor increases. If we have 0 workers, we will have 0 units of output. As we increase our workers, the output doesn't just increase, but it increases at a what rate? It doesn't just increase, it increases at a something rate. At an increasing rate or a decreasing rate. The workers start to specialize, things get faster and faster, the output starts to increase at an increasing rate. Increasing rate is like an exponential function, whereas decreasing rate is it's slowing down as it goes up. This is known as increasing rate. This is known as decreasing rate. They both are going upwards. They both are going upwards, but the rate is different, yeah? So, as the workers specialize, the output increases at an increasing rate. And then, what happens? The machine gets overcrowded. You're trying to put too many workers on the same machine, and the output is increasing at a decreasing rate. So the first stage happens due to specialization. The first stage happens due to specialization. The second stage happens due to fixed capital. In the what run? In the short run. We call this the law of diminishing marginal returns. The output is increasing, but it's increasing at a decreasing rate. Now, the analogy from a cost point of view. If your output is increasing at a fast rate, which is quote-unquote a good thing, then your cost will be increasing slowly, which is a good thing, or quite quickly, which is a bad thing. If your output is increasing quite quickly, then your cost will be increasing quite slowly. So your cost function is actually the opposite. It starts off increasing at a decreasing rate and then increasing at an increasing rate. You can make a note that these two are inverses of each other. These two are inverses of each other. I hope that makes intuitive sense. If you're a firm and your output is increasing quite rapidly, you're producing output, then the cost, what you need to pay for that, would actually be slowing down because you're actually getting more and more and more output. So from a cost point of view, what you're paying, it's actually increasing at a very slow rate. Think of the converse. If your output increases slowly, that's a negative, right? You don't want your output to increase slowly, which means your cost is increasing quite rapidly. So again, we still call this stage 1, stage 2, and this is still, stage 2 is still referred to as the law of diminishing marginal returns. If you could label that, stage 2, that pen is too thick. Stage 2, law of diminishing marginal returns. And this is where we get the all-important marginal cost curve from. Actually, before we do that, we need to add our fixed cost. If I add a fixed cost to the total variable cost curve, what will happen to the total variable cost? It will shift upwards by the value of the fixed cost. So the difference between the variable cost and the total cost is the fixed cost. Now we all know what marginal cost looks like. What does marginal cost look like? It is a J shape. The J shape actually comes from the variable cost curve. If you look at the variable cost curve, what is happening to each of these triangles? Are they getting taller or shorter? They're actually getting shorter, right? That's why we say at the beginning, the marginal cost goes down. It's actually the height of those triangles. Because marginal means extra. How do you calculate marginal cost? Marginal cost is the change in total cost divided by the change in quantity. Please grab a... What's happening to the height of these triangles? Now they're getting taller. So now the marginal cost is actually going up. We can also say that marginal cost is equal to the change in total variable cost divided by the change in quantity. And you can add a note. That's because the fixed cost is, you can make a note, because the fixed cost is constant in the short run. Because the fixed cost is constant in the short run. Again, this is stage 1, this is stage 2. Stage 2 is still, you can label the law of diminishing marginal returns. All good? All good. Say yes. 1, 2, 3. Say yes. Marginal cost is the opposite of what? Marginal cost is the opposite of marginal product. When the marginal cost is going down, the marginal product will go up. When the marginal cost is going up, the marginal product will go down. This is still, again, called the law of diminishing marginal returns. Yeah. I guess the most important one is for you to understand, first of all, that marginal cost is shaped this way, and then to understand the equation that generates it, and how it's actually connected to everything. The reason marginal cost is J-shaped is all to do with the law of diminishing marginal returns. When a firm starts out, when the capital is fixed and there's room for specialization, the extra cost begins to go down. But once that machine, once that equipment gets overcrowded, the extra cost begins to go up. That's why the marginal cost is shaped that way. Now, in terms of questions like in your assignment, when to shift what? There were two questions. One was, the firm experienced an increase in their rent. And then in another question you had, the firm experienced an increase in their wages, casual wages, right? So, let's try rent first. So, marginal cost is the J shape. Average variable cost and average total cost. Okay, always be careful that these have to be minimum points. In other words, you can't draw it like this. That would be incorrect because the minimum is not touching the marginal cost curve. When you draw them all together, the minimum must touch the marginal cost curve. Okay, so let's say, for example, a firm has an increase in their rent. Rent is a what type of cost? Fixed cost. So in other words, this is an increase in a firm's fixed costs. So the first thing you would have to do in a question, identify what type of cost it is. Perhaps make a note for your study. When you do see an increase in cost, make a note to identify what type of cost it is. It's a fixed cost. Now, regardless of the type of cost, the average total cost will go up because the T stands for total. So no matter what type of cost it is, the average total cost will increase. No matter what type of cost it is, the average total cost will increase because it includes all types of costs, yeah? Would the average variable cost change? By definition, it's only the variable cost, so that will remain constant. This will not shift. Marginal cost. Marginal cost is defined as the extra cost of one extra unit, which is only affected by the variable cost. Which comes back here. Perhaps you can add a note. Marginal cost is only affected by our variable costs. So in other words, the marginal cost curve is not going to shift. So the only curve that will shift here is the average total cost. The average total cost will shift upwards. ATC 2. And you can add a note. Therefore, the firm's profit will go down. Since ATC has gone up, therefore, economic profit will decrease. What's the profit maximizing rule? MR equals MC. Has MC changed? Has there been a change in MC? No. Therefore, has the profit maximizing condition changed? No. Therefore, will the firm change its level of output? No. The next conclusion is, since MC hasn't changed, therefore MR equals MC hasn't changed, therefore the firm's quantity, the bar on top means constant, the firm will continue to produce the same quantity. The firm will continue to produce the same quantity. Now that's different to an increase in something like casual wages. What if casual wages increased? You've got marginal cost, you've got average variable cost, you've got average total cost. Same minimum rules apply.